Okay, you say you want to keep watching, or you want to watch me, so, alrighty then. Since you keep leaving before I sew, I'm just gonna do this. I'm making a video. Pretty cool, eh? Start your standard, oversized, camouflage bandana. Wonderful thing. And wrinkled as hell. So, first thing you gotta do, flatten it out and iron it, because trying to sew with an unironed piece of cloth is not doing it. It sucks. Yeah. That'd be like trying to fuck with a limp dick. Just ain't gonna happen. So, just iron it out. Smooth it out real nice. And yes, I don't have much room, so it takes a little bit. And you gotta be creative on how you fold it and how you kind of adjust everything. But you just keep doing this until you get one nice flat piece of material with no big creases in it. Because otherwise, let's face it, it looked like it had just come out of a dryer and got crumpled up and was sitting there for a few hours, days, weeks, which is about what happened anyway, to be honest. But now we have this nice smooth piece of fabric. Next, just because it doesn't take an entire bandana to make a mask, I am going to fold it in half. Kind of adjust that, And now that you've got your halfway mark, marked by corners, edges, etc., you fold and iron. There, now you have a nice crease there. Now you fold this way. So now you have the proper amount for one bandana. Well, you kind of do, or one mask. You have it marked. Okay, turning down the iron for a second. Now you take your fancy schmancy cutting mat and you unfold it, and boom, you got this nice crease right there that you just basically ironed. You got your little cutting wheel, and you carefully cut right down the seam. And you take half of it, you fold it up all nice and pretty so that you can use it later. And that you just set aside. Now, because you ironed a bunch of creases in here, you unfold it again. See the nice little crease? You lay that on your cutting mat. Cutting wheel again, and carefully cut right down the seam. Always make sure to put the little plastic safety cover back on, because you don't want to cut your little precious fingers. Take one more piece, fold it, set it off to the side, because you're probably going to use it again. Set your cutting board off to the side. Now you spread out your nice little square. That's all you need to make one half-ass, almost works, but it fulfills the requirements. Next, you take your template. Just a simple, you can use whatever you want. This just happened to be lying in the garage, so it's what I used. Put it on there, and you kind of get it centered up, and you get it looking pretty. And then you fold one corner over, and you can't really see this because it's out of the camera, but you'll see the other side. And you give it a little bit of iron, just to mark it. Then you fold this side, just like this. And you iron it. Then, you kind of pull this guy out. Toss it off to the side for a second. Relay those down because you want some real nice seams for this. You want some creases. You want, you know, super. In fact, I'm hitting some steam. We're steaming the hell out of this thing. Oh yeah. That thing's gonna be sharp as hell. I mean, we're talking razor sharp. It'll cut you. You were in jail, this would be a shank at this point. Alrighty, now that we got that, take your handy dandy little template, put it back, and now fold the top over. Once again, take your marker, or iron, whichever one you want to call it, and flatten that fucker out. Pull the iron out, kind of lay that down where the seam was. Oops, that's the problem. Turned it off and forgot to turn it on. Happens sometimes. Now we're really getting some creases. And when it does happen to kind of just fold over, just kind of, okay, I can do that. Now you just kind of iron everything out. Make sure everything's nice and flat. Make sure those seams are nice and creased, because those are important. Yeah. And so, let's spend a minute making sure you have razor sharp edges on a piece of cloth. Okay, you're done ironing. Turn it off. Now you can unfold it, and as you can see, right here, see that nice sharp edge? Take your cutting board, slide it under there, take your wheel, expose sharp edges. No, do not do that. And you carefully cut along that nice little crease you created. This is now garbage. Or it's a very tiny little piece of fabric that I don't need. Then you unfold this little piece. Now, that crease, that nice little fold you made, that is actually going to get sewn in to seam up this edge. So you're actually going to cut about a 1/4 inch, about, you know, 1/4 inch. Nice and easy, nice and slow. Haste makes waste. Even though this is waste and I didn't go fast, so even going slow makes waste. Who knew? Okay, now you do the other side. Same thing. Nice and slow. Keep it steady. Keep a nice even edge. You know. So what you end up with is this. That folds over just a tiny bit. And now it's time to turn on the sewing machine. So now you're going to get adjusted a little bit. And I'll pull the sewing machine forward a little bit. Okay, so now you just get that lined up in the center. Starting doesn't matter with this. All you're doing is holding that seam together. And so, once again, don't go too fast. Haste makes waste. Slow and steady wins the race. And then when you get close to the edge, get ready to reverse. You want to back stitch all the time, and then you got to roll your sewing machine up to the right spot so the needle's up. You open that up. Oops. Snip, snip. Snip. Throw the damn things out of the way. Then you find these little threads. Snip them. And just get rid of them. And you do the same thing for the other side. Get close to the end, you slow down a little, you hit reverse. That really went shitty, by the way. So I'm going to actually forward one more, bury the needle, pick that up, straighten that back out, and start another back stitch kind of across. Ooh, that really, I'm just gonna, let's see how bad I did. It ain't hideous, it ain't good. But I am able to pull it out. And so, considering this is going to be out here on my cheekbone, oh well. These little threads, trim those off. Cutting board gets put away. Now, it's time to attach the semi-elastic. It's called jersey cloth. And it's called jersey cloth simply because it is. I don't know why. This thing is not balancing very well. Okay. So now, first off, you figure out which way it wants to roll this way. And right now it wants to roll up kind of like this. So that's the way I want it laying on there, because that's the way I'm going to fold it, and that's the way the strap, because this is going to become the strap, it's going to lay. So you get it hanging. I got equal distances both sides. Now, you just kind of eyeball center. And now, you can take it and gently lay it out all the way across. And so, hopefully you haven't been drinking too much tonight, because I'm about to give you a good little ride. This is what it's supposed to look like. Let me get a better grip on the camera. See how right there I'm lined up right on the top edge. That was fun. That was wild and crazy, wasn't it? swig of beer. Okay, now I'm back. If you're wondering, I went, lit up a cigarette, grabbed another beer, because mine's almost empty. Now, you pin your jersey cloth onto the actual material of the mask, aka the bandana. And that's all I'm doing here, is one pin at a time, slowly working down the line, as you can see right there. And with pins, I've found the more the better. Just slowly stretch that out. Sometimes you got to kind of give this a tug, give this a little tug. You got to give it a little loving. That's okay. You know, it's like everything in life. The better you treat it, the better it treats you. And considering this thing's going to be on my face many days, might as well treat it okay. Yeah. This is definitely not a throwaway tool. Keep going with the pins. Almost there, I promise. And no, am I the most efficient seamstress? Haha. I prefer to call myself a stitch bitch, by the way. And if you do call me that, there will be no insult taken. I will look at you and go damn straight. Because guess what? It takes a real man. Real man. Man's man. To admit, I'm a fucking stitch bitch. Okay, now back to the sewing, and now we're going to kind of see if we can focus on the sewing machine a little more. I know, I'm barely in the picture, but it's okay, you'll get to see my hands. And such modeled hands they are. Aren't they beautiful? No, they're not. They're fucking carpenter hands. These things have been more abused than most things. Now this is just a stitch along this to hold the elastic jersey cloth. You know, once you get it actually set, you can take your first pin out. That's the wonderful thing, if you can call that wonderful. You don't need any back stitching, because guess what? It's going to hold, because it's going to get no abuse. And then also, I put the stitches or the pins far enough off to the side that I don't even need to worry about pulling them before I actually get the stitch done. You'll notice now, give me a second, we got scissor time. You'll notice I was able to do the stitching, and I only had to pull one pin out, the first one. All this stitch is doing here, as you can see, the little tan stitch on the black, can't even see it on this side, can you? Haha. Is holding that piece in place. It's holding the strap in place. So now you just go through, pull your damn pins back out. And you gotta ash your cigarette every once in a while, otherwise you're gonna get ashes all over everything. And so here I go, pulling pins, putting them into a pin cushion, because option B is just like poking them into the side of my head, and that sounds like it'd be kind of painful. Now you got a little piece of thread here, which is normal. You got a little piece of thread here on the other side. Hey, that's where you started. You'll notice before I sew, I always pull this stuff, this thread. Yeah, I always pull this thread. I pull it a little long, and I just let it drape down the back. Why? Because the more the merrier, and you know what? Thread's cheap. Okay, now, so you flatten that back out. And now I'm firing the iron back up, so it's going to take a minute. So while that's happening, I'm going to have a drink of beer. And probably drag on my cigarette. I'm going to kind of flatten that out. Luckily, the iron warms up pretty quick. Kind of make sure everything's looking good. Have another drag on the cigarette. This is kind of a break time in the mid. This isn't, I'm not doing this for mass production. I'm not doing this for efficiency. I'm doing this. I needed masks for work, and hey, I now have a new hobby, so fuck y'all. Okay, iron is probably warm enough, because it does warm up pretty quick. So now you fold this really tight. And here's the really hard part, because you got to get it pretty damn even, and then hold it, and you don't want to push too hard forward and back with your iron. You don't want to do this. You want to just kind of wiggle it. Wiggle it just a little bit. Because if you move too much, it's going to drag the cloth. By just jiggling it back and forth like this, it's going to give you an absolutely wonderful, as you can see, fold. Once I fold that one back down because I accidentally knocked it. But you'll see, it's a pretty even fold all the way across. That's probably pretty trippy for you. Probably looks better like that. Okay. So now, just repeat. Get your fold. Get everything right where you want it. Take your time. Make sure your straps are out of the way. Oh, that one popped back on me. So now, once again, little jiggle it, wiggle it, back and forth. But you don't drag it back and forth this way or that way. You just do a little jiggle, 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 jiggle. Guess what the next step is? One more time. Third time's charms, babes. Okay. So now, you've got the third fold. Guess what's after that? A little bit of wiggle it, and guess what? I didn't ash my cigarette quick enough. It landed on my lap. A little bit of wiggle, a little bit of wiggle, a little bit of wiggle, a little bit of wiggle. This wasn't a hot iron, and I wasn't on a public issue. I could be a little bit of wiggle. Oh yeah, baby. Ooh, hey, I'm gonna take 5. Ha ha. Just kidding. Okay, now you're getting ready to sew. But because the foot creates drag and the little grabber things don't, once again, you need to pin it. And so you do your pinning. That one did not come out the way I wanted it. That's where I want it. Just like that. Little pennies. And you just work your way up the line. Work your way up the line. And keep going until you get to the end. Unfortunately, right now, I'm only halfway there. But you just keep going. lay it out, keep it nice and flat, and no need to rush. And a couple more pins, maybe 3. And I will be ready to finish the sewing. Oh. Minor problem. Other than smoke in my eyes, an almost empty beer almost fell over. Luckily, no spills, no harm, no foul. Oh yeah, bitches. And now for the last pin. Now, since my smoke is almost gone, put that guy out. And another swig of beer before we actually start sewing, because, hey, sometimes a cold beer is the way to go. I just put my pin cushion thing in an accessible place, because as I'm sewing, I'm going to have to be pulling the pins and putting them away. So, once again, lots of thread out back. I'm going to turn it just a slight bit. Now this is where it gets critical, because this is a visible seam. And so we really want to get this right in the right spot. Now, this is where back stitching is important, because otherwise the damn thing will just unravel in a fucking day or two. I mean, the washing machine will fucking do it for you. So you go kind of slow. Get a little bit. You push that little button. Oh, that was a sexy thing. Okay. Now, because I pins real close to the foot, don't see seamstresses using a Leatherman very often, do you? Well, this is man sewing. This isn't frickin' stitch bitch. This is man sewing. Even though I guess technically I am a stitch bitch at this point. So we're just going to set this over by the pin cushion and continue to sew. And now we're just nicely guiding it alongside. I got that one. Got that one with these stubby little fingers of mine. About 1/8 of an inch along the edge of the seam. And like I said, see? You're constantly pulling pins. That's why you want that pin cushion real close. Another pin. And when you get really good at this, you can actually be pulling pins as you're sewing, but guess what? I'm a damn carpenter. I'm not good at this. I am at best amateur. I really truly consider myself this barely fumbling along, not killing anything or, sewing my hand into the fabric. And so, continuing on, so, pulling pins. You know the deal. Once again, Leatherman to the rescue. Leatherman Wave. This damn thing is almost 20 years old. It's an awesome tool. I will continue to use it as long as it keeps going, and I bet it keeps going longer than I do. So, there's a plug for Leatherman. You can go ahead and send me a check. I don't mind. Almost to the last pin. That's the nice part. Because when you get to the last part, And here you can kind of see it. I'm going to kind of try and see how close we are. And I'm not going to be able to show it to you because I'd need 3 hands at that point. But see? Now we get to the end. And then we hit the reverse button right here. And this is where I have to set the camera down again, so I can actually guide the fabric and hold the reverse button down. And then you back stitch, you get it up, pull it out, make sure this guy is out of the way, and you bring, snip, snip these guys in. Snip those off, pull the last pin, then of course you snip the thread, because like I said, I'm generous on the thread. You got to snip these guys off because that was what was sitting in the sewing machine waiting to start. Throw them away and voila. Another mask, perfectly good for work, and boom, I'm done. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it.